Alright, on this second video, you're going to learn how we can add color to our rendering. It is a good idea that you have your markers ready and enough space on the side to start testing your colors to see if you like them or not. Let's assume, for example, that we would have a brown color for the top. Let's say we have a black walnut top. We can start with a very light color just to get ourselves situated quickly. And then we can have an overall tone added to the main elements, mainly to separate our materials. Alright, so it's very important that we don't really rush in this step. We know exactly what colors we have to work with, but at the same time we still need to keep it fresh. We haven't added any detail for the refrigerator just yet, so I will just draw it as a main thing, and then later I can add some lines. But at least now this is indicating that it is some sort of a metallic. It has some sort of a metallic finish. The range is black. What type of floor do we want? Do we want a black floor? So we can work on parallel lines on the floor to fill everything in. It's very important that we don't leave white surfaces because they might be misleading. Alright, so we got that going. Do we want a color accent? Yes, that would be welcoming. So let's imagine that we would have, for example, the face for these cabinets here made of glass. We have some element there in blue as well. Let's pick a color for the countertop and backsplash. So we would add vertical lines minus the highlights, and then the backsplash. Alright, so something like this. And now we would have to figure out what are the colors we have for the space. If we want to have maybe like a cherry finish or like a wood finish, we can work on our wood tones. At this point we are just doing color fillers. Whoops, the last part didn't really need to do it. We'll leave it like that. The sink, I'd like to keep it white. Do we want to add glass elements? Not so much on this wall. Let's keep our glass cabinets just on the ones on the right. So we would have, and it's okay if you go beyond the edge at this point. We can always fix it later as we add more detail. Alright, so we got the basics here. Now let's figure out where we could add more color. Certainly the back wall, it would be interesting to have a bright color added, wouldn't you say? But now at this point it's important that we pick two different tones of yellow, as I can demonstrate on the side there. A lighter and a darker tone, so that we can play with shadows. You see the difference between these two tones. It's important that in our rendering we work with pairs of markers so that we can get more detail. Let's switch to blue, and let's add some blue for the window panes. Let's switch to the yellow, dark yellow over here for the top of that window, for that wall. There's something missing over here. That's a darker element here for that side of the cabinet. You see, little by little we add more detail to the scene. If we need to zoom in, it would be the time now to really get with our markers. You know, we can draw more detail. In this case, the sinks, the dual sinks here. some edges there. You see how I made a mistake there, brown on the sink. It's not a big deal. Let's add detail to the window, to the framing, so that it wouldn't look so white. I would do this with the thin tip of my marker just to get more detail. Alright, and we would be on our way. What we would have to do next is go back to our pen and kind of trim some of these lines so that we can add more detail. Alright, so here we go. I got the black pencil, but now I am insisting more on it because I really want to capture the outline first of the island. Then the cantilevering surface here, it's important that we mark it, the bottom of it, with a thicker line so that it looks like it's really hanging over. Otherwise it would be hard to see. Okay, let's continue adding detail here. I'm gonna mark some of the centers of these tiles with a little dot so that they would look like the intersections. Alright, another line there for the toe kick. You see, it really makes a difference once we work on that. Let's add more detail to the sink. I think it's very important that we work on it well because it adds a lot of character to a kitchen, wouldn't you say, right? So let's add over here more detail to our faucets. Okay. Something like this. Let's go to the back. The backsplash. Let's add more detail to it. I think it's important. Alright, so now let's get the window done even with more detail. Alright, that's looking good. Now the refrigerator, we said that we were going to work more on this. Let's see what we can do with it, right? We would have obviously to be true to the type of refrigerator that we specified. But we can start marking some details, like this is our water fountain. Maybe it goes like this. I'm not really sure. I would have to really look into them. I don't know if they have, some of them have a grill on the front, but you see the detail that you add would be, the details that you add would be welcoming. They will add another element of credibility to your rendering. And then obviously the edges of the counters would have to be drawn with a thicker line. It's very important that you do that so that, again, we see where the different objects end. And once you add color, you see that you will have to rework your black lines to get them to the next level, because they get kind of, they disappear a little bit once you add color. It's just part of the process. Alright, and now we can certainly have more fun adding extra details to our cabinets. Like for example, if we have pulls, obviously they need to be lined up. I'm going to draw this line over here just to make sure that all of the pulls are on the same line going to the vanishing point on the right. Even those, if they are mounted at the same height, they need to have their own vanishing point. I mean, not their own vanishing point. They need to have the vanishing point figured out well. Alright, since this is a glass surface, maybe what I want to do is add diagonal lines there to suggest exactly that. Otherwise they would appear too flat. Does the range come with its own backsplash or not? We would have to define that. So I'm not sure if these lines that I drew there are correct. But I'll leave the design here. We already have done a lot of good details to get ourselves started. Drawers, of course, we can add a whole bunch of them. Again, the pulls, if we have, let's say, a row of drawers over here, they would have to be drawn obviously on the same line so that they would make sense, right? So make sure that you align them properly. And we haven't even started designing, the type of faces that we would have for the cabinets. That would be another full video, but I will stop it here. We can add extra shadows if we want, but this will get you far in the rendering process.